This episode is in collaboration with Flycarb. Flycarb are the company who bring you bicarb. Bicarb, it's an innovative and affordable supplement that harnesses the lactate buffering power of bicarbonate of soda to help athletes push their limits. Bicarb provides all the performance benefits of bicarb without any of these side effects. Designed by local runners for athletes of all abilities.
Now on to the interview with the episode. We have a Chorlton Runner who is a mum of two and a journalist for ITV. She has PBs of 5k 17.54, 10k 37.06, half marathon 83.54 and the marathon 3 hours 2 and 22 seconds. Please welcome Amy Weyers. Welcome Amy.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we're going to start with a discussion point.
We're not going to start with a discussion point.
Sorry.
It's all right.
It's in the script.
It is in the script. We did have a placeholder for one, but we've not got one for today.
So let's start with running. When did you first get into running, Amy?
So, my earliest memory of running is doing the 1 lap race at primary school and literally beating everybody in the year by, I think, like half the field, like including the boys. So that is my earliest memory of running. So God knows how old I must have been there, like 8 or 9, something like that. And then I went on to high school and I did run quite competitively at high school. I ran for Cheshire, I did cross country. But I don't know, when you were a kid and when I was at school, it kind of, especially when you got to being a teenager, I don't know, I just had other things I wanted to do. I don't know if I just lost the love, or I don't know if I ever had the love properly then, or if it was just seen as like something that you were made to do, if you know what I mean. I don't know. I used to just enjoy going fast. I have a memory of that. We used to have this thing at my high school. I went to Helsby High School and we had this thing called the double loop that we had to do, and I remember again beating everybody in that and being pretty quick, and then not long after that was on a minibus every weekend going to a cross-country match here, there and everywhere. But then I didn't run for a long time, so I sort of stopped when in my sort of teenage years, when I got to sort of 17, 18, and then I didn't run for about, it must have been about 10 years before I sort of got back into it and refound the love, I suppose.
And as a junior, do you remember any competitions that you did during that time?
I've got a very distinct memory of going to a cross-country match in the snow and like being on this bus and not being able to feel my fingers, and I think it's not long after that I got a boyfriend in the year above who had a car, and I thought, I ain't doing this anymore. Honestly, that is literally what it came down to, and thinking, this is awful. Why would anybody want to do cross country? This is the worst thing in the world. And now cross country is actually my favourite thing. So the fact that I have come full circle and now it's the thing that I absolutely love. But I don't know, when you're a kid, it's just I think it was different as well, because where I grew up, I didn't go to a running club. You know, I ran at school, but there wasn't like a running club as such, and you know, we couldn't get me to a running club even if I had wanted to go to. I grew up in Frodsham, and I'm sure there's more stuff there now than there was, but it would have meant my parents maybe driving over to Chester, or it wasn't accessible like the way it is in Manchester, which is one of the things I love about living in Manchester, that I look at the kids coming through at Trafford and, you know, and the facilities and the things that are on offer. And at the time when I was growing up, it just wasn't sort of there as in the way that it's sort of, that I feel like it is now. But then I often say to my kids, you know, who get to go to gymnastics, swimming, dance, this, that and the other, you know what I mean? There seem to be loads more stuff now than, you know, than when I was younger. But yeah.
So you mentioned that you had some time out of running, but what made you get back into it?
Partly my job. So I work for ITV News and I'm a journalist, and it's been a really tough career to sort of crack, I suppose. And as part of that, I've moved around quite a bit. So I lived in Birmingham for a while, and then I lived up in Preston before I sort of came back to Manchester. And so part of the reason I think I actually first got into it was when I moved to Birmingham, because I didn't know anybody. So I kind of moved somewhere where I didn't have any friends or family, or, you know, and it was the same when I moved up to Preston. So I think that's what made me sort of get into it. I kind of joined, you know, I used to go to a few social things, used to run with a few mates, and, you know, I sort of refound my love of it, I suppose, as a way of almost like sort of meeting people as a social thing as much as anything. Not because I thought it was going to be something I took really seriously or, you know, or did competitively, I suppose, at that point anyway.
And did you join a running club while you were in Preston or Birmingham?
So I remember when I lived in Preston, I joined, I don't know if it was a club as such, but the David Lloyd gym it was in like Whitley Woods. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to go out from there. And I think it was a Wednesday night, they used to go running from there. So they used to just go and do a little run. I don't know if they still do it now, but that was the first, I don't know if it was, you'd class it as a proper club. But also that is the shop that I bought my first pair of trainers from.
Right.
So I still run in Brooks now. And I remember my first pair of running shoes were Brooks Glycerin, and I only bought them because they were bright pink, and I just wanted the pink pair. So honestly, that is the reason why, 10, 15 years later, I still run in Brooks, because of that pink pair of glycerin shoes that were in the shop. But then that was when I sort of first started. You know, it wasn't a club as such, but it kind of got me.
That sounds like you were running with the sweatshop running community.
Maybe, that does ring a bell.
Did a lot of them turn up in bright yellow t-shirts?
Yeah, that does ring a bell. Yeah. That does ring a bell. Yeah.
So they had one in the local branch to here, which is Hyde as well.
Oh, okay.
I did actually do some work from that shop for a short time. So I'm familiar with that running group.
Yeah. It was great. It was a lovely little route, and it used to go along the canal down there, and it used to be really pretty, really pretty. So that was the first my first taste of any sort of club type experience, I suppose.
Yeah, and so I believe you, when you came to Manchester, you started running for Manchester Road Runners. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I moved into Manchester, we lived in Castlefield, and there was a pub in Castlefield, and I can't remember what it's called now. There was a pub. I don't know if they still meet there, but they used to meet and do like a route sort of around Media City. So when I joined, it was tiny. So there were literally I think 10 or 15 people maybe, and it literally had been born out of some guys in the pub. Do you know what I mean? That started going as these things do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That started and that. That I used to run with them, basically do this loop up to Media City and back, because it was like stumbling distance from my flat. Because that was when I was starting to get into it a bit more, I suppose. But even at that point, I still don't think I sort of knew that I was any good, if you know what I mean. I was still sort of just, sort of enjoying it, and I wasn't really taking it that seriously, if that makes sense.
So what was it like at Manchester Road Runners, aside from the initial low numbers? And can you tell us a bit more about the club?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I've ran for Chorlton Runners for a long time now, but Manchester Road Runners, from what I can see, has really grown and really taken off. I was going to say,
they've started doing the Manchester Cross Country League now.
Yeah, they're doing the cross country. I think they've now got affiliation. When I was with them still, they were organising a few different 10K races. They actually organised a couple of races up the sort of canal in Manchester, up to Media City and back. So it was already growing when I left, if you know what I mean. So you knew that it was a good thing, and I think it was replacing. I don't know what other city centre running clubs there actually were, because there used to be. I don't know whether it was a sweatshop, or there was another running shop in town.
There was one from the Manchester Arndale
and that
as well.
Stopped, I think.
It did, yeah.
So there was a real gap there. There wasn't an actual running club in the city centre, or that sweatshop was still going at the time, but that obviously is petered away now. So they have really sort of filled a gap there. If you think about all those flats in Castlefield and students and young people and whatever, do you know what I mean? So to be honest, I do see them across cross country and stuff, and it's just, and I see the vests sometimes, at races, and I just think it's just great to see that tiny little club has kind of grown and and done so well.
So do you remember your first race as a senior?
I think I was actually thinking about this when you sent the questions through. I think it was Birmingham Half Marathon, or it could have been Manchester 10K. But either way, I did not do very well. So
more importantly, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. But if it was Birmingham Half, I think it would have been 2012, and I did that. I had to look back at my time in 1 hour 56. So that's all right. It's respectable, if you know what I mean. But it wasn't sort of, not in any way rapid. I think at that point, that was the furthest I'd ever ran at that point, because all I'd ever really done was cross country at school, so I didn't really know what I was capable of, and the idea of running 13 miles just felt like, flipping heck, this is an achievement. So, yeah.
And you ran your first marathon in 2016, which was the London Marathon. So can you tell us about this experience?
Yeah, so the London Marathon, so I'd started dabbling a bit with Chorlton Runners at this point, partly because we moved house. So we moved out of the city centre, we moved over to Didsbury. And at that point, there is now Didsbury Runners, who I'm sure you know about, but at that point Didsbury Runners didn't exist, so that wasn't a thing. And also Manchester Road Runners, they only did this sort of short route on a Wednesday. And I wanted to do the marathon, so I needed to do sort of longer runs. So I started dabbling a bit with Chorlton Runners doing a long run they did a long run on a Sunday at the water park, which you didn't have to join. There was no commitment, which I liked. You didn't have to sign up, or you didn't have to be affiliated with them or whatever. The Sunday run, and I think that's still the same now. Actually, you didn't have to actually be a member. So I signed up with them. So I'd started running with them on a Sunday. But again, didn't really know what I was capable of, and I remember getting injured, which was another big issue with I guess running, having had 10, 15 years out of running, and then I started running, and then I sort of was like, oh, actually, I'm all right at this, and then I did the classic that we all do of just doing too much too soon, and I remember during that training I got a stress fracture earlier on in my femur. And that was because I just did too much too soon, and I did too fast too soon. We've all done it, haven't we? In any part of our training, you've done too much too soon. So I remember actually when I finally got to the start line of London, that was and I know this has been said so many times, but just getting to the start line was a miracle, if you know what I mean, because I'd been injured and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I could even get round, and. It meant a lot to me because I was raising money for prostate cancer, and which my dad had been diagnosed with, and and then I felt like, God, I don't want to let all these people down that have sponsored me, because that was how I got my place initially. It was one of these charity places, and then I actually ran a 10k PB at the end of the London Marathon. So I set off really I'm aiming for sub 4, I don't know what's going to happen, and then I got to 6 miles to go, and I was like, and then people were dropping like flies. There's that bit in the London Marathon when you go under the tunnel, which is the only bit where there's no cameras and everybody's just lying on the floor, just, and you're thinking at any moment that could be me, you could cramp up, or, you think that now, don't you, when you do a marathon, at any moment anything could completely go wrong. But I remember feeling so good, and then just it was like I just started at mile 20 and then off I went, and then I ended up with I think 3:37, which I was pretty chuffed with for my first marathon. But then I absolutely had the bug. Then that was it, because I was like, I definitely think I can do faster. I can do faster than that. There's no way I'm just leaving it there.
And did you have any realisation of how good you were after getting back into running?
Well, yeah, when I got this stress fracture, that was a realisation that I'd just done because I'd started trying to run too fast, too quick. And at first I was like, oh, is this because I'm just getting old? But then when I properly joined Chorlton Runners, that was when I started pushing myself a bit more, and they have different groups, that you can go in different pace groups. And then I started going to, it used to actually be on a Thursday, which was the sort of rep session. Then I started going to that, and so yeah, kind of gradually I sort of realised I am as fast as these other ones, and I can keep up, and I am sort of capable of more. But it is those rep sessions, I think, that really gets your time down, isn't it? Because I didn't at that point understand, the idea of a slow run or a tempo run or an interval session, or, do you know what I mean? I had no idea about any of that. I was just like, oh, I like running, so I'm just going to, go for a run, if you know what I mean. I think doing the marathon helped with that, though, because when you print out any marathon training plan, it kind of gives it to you, doesn't it? It gives you a breakdown of what you should do each week and how you should do different sessions and stuff. But yeah, it was only sort of, when I joined Chorlton Runners that I started to sort of realise that I'm, if I put my mind to this, and I am quite headstrong, then I am actually not too bad.
So we did chat about this just before we started recording, but I remember being interviewed by you for an ITV News segment when the Manchester Marathon was found to be short. Do you remember this? And were you a runner who was affected by it?
No, I don't. I didn't remember it until you just reminded me. So I'm very sorry. That's not that you're not memorable, Dave. I apologise, but it has come back to me now because I wonder if that was the year that I actually did London. Actually thinking about it, I think it sounds around about then that I would have done London, but. So it didn't affect me because I didn't do Manchester. But oh my goodness, the idea of doing the marathon and then finding out it was short, my heart just goes out to everybody that that went through that. And you obviously must have made a good interviewee, Dave, because it made it onto the telly. So. But yeah, let's not make that mistake again.
No.
I think you know how much training goes in and I always, when I've, not that I've done millions of marathons, but I always have almost more respect for people who, I think I'm lucky that I perhaps obviously naturally must be quite a capable runner. And I don't know where that comes from because no one in my family is remotely sporty at all. Not my mum, my dad, no one is sporty. But for people who running isn't their thing maybe, or, who do find running more of a challenge, or it's not maybe something that comes as naturally to them, they're the people who, when I'm in a marathon, I'm like, I've got my absolute admiration for, because they're the ones who are, I know it all hurts, it hurts us all, doesn't it, when you're doing a marathon, but if you're doing it and you're doing it for a good cause or for a loved one or whatever, but if you then find out it's short, that is just the worst thing ever.
I know, and some of the people I knew who it affected, they'd only ever done the short ones, they'd not even done it. Another marathon. So that was really frustrating.
It's not something we want to be remembered for in Manchester, is it?
How short was it?
I think it was about 300 metres, if I remember correctly.
Absolute killer, isn't it?
No, it's awful.
But the thing is, as well, with marathons, it's very difficult to take the race in line because it's busy. You're going out for drinks, stops. The reality is most of those people probably did run a marathon.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's always an annoyance of mine whenever I've done a marathon, is that when I finish, I'm like, well, I ran 27 miles according to my watch. So I did get that time. Strava says I did it.
Strava says you've done a sub 3.
Yeah, exactly.
But you haven't.
Oh, so annoying.
We won't get onto that argument.
Yeah. So annoying.
So you joined Chorlton Runners around this time. What made you switch clubs?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've touched on that a little bit. It's partly because we moved house, but it's partly because I just needed to be doing a longer distance, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that attracted me to Chorlton Runners, and the thing I still love about it now, is that it's so inclusive. It is a proper running club, but it perhaps doesn't take itself quite as seriously as maybe, I don't know, Trafford or Salford, or it's a club that is very like. It doesn't matter whether you're slow or fast. It's very, very inclusive of, and that, especially when you're joining a club, it's just a bit less intimidating, I think. Do you know what I mean? You don't. Sometimes people think, I've got to be able to run this time to join this club, and some, I don't know, some clubs might be the case. Do you know what I mean? That you do have to be at a certain level to to be able to compete and to run at a club. But Chorlton Runners, that just does not matter at all, and it's a really social club. They did chips on a Tuesday, so that was like a massive attraction. It had sessions that worked for me, and it was just so friendly, and it still is. And I've made such, the friendships that I've got out of that club, are just, I feel like I owe the club such a lot, really, because it's been such a big part of my life.
Yeah, when you've mentioned your love of cross country, I always see you near the front of the Manchester Cross Country Leagues, and you're always up at the front in good numbers.
Yeah, we are. But the cross country is one of my favourite things because I've got kids and a pretty crazy job now. I do struggle to get to training like I used to. But cross country is one of those things where everybody goes, and it's a real team effort, even when it comes to sort of bringing the gazebo, and someone's doing the flasks, and someone's bringing the biscuits, someone's making the cakes, and I always say to people every year, we signed up for cross country, and when people say to me, I can't, I'm too slow, I'm like, you're not too slow, you're not, like, is that, you're not too slow ever to do cross country. And I think it's all aspects of the club go to cross country. We've got a very, very strong men's team now, especially, and we've got lots of strong women starting to come through now as well. And it just doesn't matter though. You can't, it takes in all, speeds, ages, abilities, and I think that's what running's all about, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've had a few people on the podcast from Chorlton Runners, but from your view, what makes it such a good club? I do think we've covered this already.
Yeah, it's just great.
Always have
Chips,
cowbells,
good colours,
don't they?
yeah, good support.
Yeah.
I mean, they will cheer if you've done the Manchester Marathon or the Manchester Half. I pretty much feel sorry for anyone that isn't a Chorlton runner, really, because when you're running through the Chorlton bit at the end, the support and stuff that you get from everybody is just absolutely phenomenal. So
I know there's a question later on about the Welsh Castles relay, but I always see you guys with multiple teams out in that.
We don't know, this year is going to be tricky because we're the only club that has 3 teams for Welsh Castles, but they've changed I don't know if you know about it, but they've changed the rules.
The Vets is a mixed gender team now, isn't it?
The Vets is now mixed gender, which you know, I am still hopeful we're going to get 3 teams, but that is like the event of the year for Chorlton Runners. It's something that the guy, I'm sure he doesn't mind me bigging him up, but the guy that organises it, Justin at Chorlton Runners, is phenomenal. I don't know how he does it, but it's such a great weekend away.
Yeah.
And I really love it because, again, because I don't get to things as much as I used to. I mean, even last year, I'd say I met 3 people that I'd never met before at Chorlton Runners, and like, because when you're on a bus with someone for a whole weekend, it's a bonding experience, you know. So and again, it's just really friendly and really supportive.
We've also had a few guests on who ran as a junior and then started again as a senior. So, what advice would you give to the people getting back into running after time out?
Yeah, just don't do too much too soon, I suppose, because I mean, I honestly mustn't have ran since the age of like 16, 17, I think, until 27, 28, I think. So that's a pretty big chunk of time off. And I got this, honestly, I was on a walk. I remember having crutches. Like, I had this stress fracture and was out for like months and just thought I wasn't going to be able to run again because I didn't know anything about strength. You know, I didn't do any training, didn't do any yoga, didn't do any of the sort of things that I do now to try and sort of combat all that. So I guess it's just, I mean, you have like the Couch to 5K now, don't you? Which wasn't a thing back then, but it's doing it gradually, isn't it? Just to sort of get into it and ease yourself into it and sort of work out what your boundaries are, I suppose.
Yeah, when you start to see progress, it's easy to get carried away, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I just classically got carried away. And then the thing is, I'm the same now though. Every time I get injured, I'm like, I won't go too fast next time. I was like, all I want is to be able to just do 3 10Ks a week, and I'll just do them dead slow. And that's all I want in life, is just to be able to. And the minute I can run again, like my husband just thinks it's hilarious. Like the minute I can run again, I'm like, I'm just gonna try and win that race. So I am so like, I'm like a mist comes down. I'm so competitive. I'm so competitive. I'm actually not on Strava, which is very controversial, I know, because I know if I was on Strava, I would not do anything else in my life. I would literally just spend my entire life looking at Strava and like comparing myself. And honestly, I'm awful, absolutely awful. So yes, just don't do anything that I did, and then you'll be fine.
Okay, right. Well, that's all my questions, Amy. I'm now going to hand over to Callum.
Welcome, Amy. So my first question is about the marathon. So you touched a little bit on it before, but you've done London Marathon in 2016, and then since you've completed it 3 times and done New York once. Do you feel that the marathon distance is something that you really enjoy and that you get the most out of?
No.
Okay.
So it is the most rewarding, definitely. And so I did London and ran 3:37, and then obviously had this like, knew I could do more. And then I did 3:18 maybe, so I took a load off. So I ran 3:18, and then I think in New York around 3:17, so I only took a minute off. But if anyone hasn't done New York before, New York has about 9 bridges in the course, so it is not a PB course.
Because they bow, don't they?
Yeah,
over
they
the
bow.
bridges.
And I also happened to be getting married that year. Not that I blame my marriage or anything, but I remember like having to run 20 miles. I literally ran 20 miles the day before my wedding. So it probably wasn't the best prep. And also we then went to Venice for our honeymoon. Again, not good for running, really. So I took a big chunk off. But then my times got quicker in every other distance. And then I had a bit of I knew that I was capable of more in the marathon than around 3:02 last year, which I was still absolutely gutted about because I wanted to go under 3, but that is definitely more in line with my other times. But the reason I don't think the marathon is for me is because I always get injured. Like every time something comes up, some niggle, and I just don't think I am wired I don't think I have a marathon brain. So I am like, the gun goes and I am off and I want to win, and I'm like a, rabbit in the headlights. Like I am absolutely, I love to race. Whereas a marathon isn't really about that, is it? A marathon is, you've got to be strategic, you've got to pace yourself, you've got to be so controlled, strong for a marathon, but in a way that, not that I don't think I am, because I've managed to do the times that I've done, but it's a different sort of wiring, I think, for a marathon. I'm so in awe of people that marathons is their thing and that they do really well at it, but you've got to be so mentally strong to do that distance, and I don't think I get quite the same buzz out of it, I don't think.
So do you think you went off too quick for your 3:02 then? Did you?
My 3:02, I was ill again. I'm always ill. I have two very snotty children, so I feel like if I could just have I was ill doing Wilmslow half yesterday, so I feel like if I could just do a race when I wasn't ill, that would be a good. It's so annoying when you do all the training, then you don't get injured, and then you get a cold, isn't it? It's like the absolute. But no, to be honest, I don't know that anything did really go wrong. I had been ill, so I remember feeling like I didn't have as much energy, as I should have. And then I also remember going through Canary Wharf, and you know how it absolutely screws your watch, and that screwed me because I thought I was running, and I should have factored that in, and I did, but maybe not enough. Because I remember thinking I was running significantly quicker than I was, and then I remember my watch beeping that I was at 20 miles. And I was thinking, right, I'm on track here, I'm on pace, I'm fine. And then seeing the 20-mile marker about like half a mile later, and then being like, no! Literally in my head, I was like, and then I was trying to do the maths. I'm not very good at maths at the best of times. And I was like, I can't do it. I've basically got to now run a 10k PB. And I didn't give up. Like, it's not like, but everybody says you should start your marathon at mile 20, shouldn't you really? And I didn't have it. And I'd run Trimple 20 and run that really well, and I had done it then. I'd upped it for the last like 4 or 5 miles. I'd gone fast at the end, which is what I wanted to do in London. But then it came, and I didn't slow down, so I didn't die. I didn't slow down, but I equally didn't speed up, and so. So I don't know. I mean, I cried for quite a few weeks. Nobody could console me, to be honest, about the whole thing. But I don't know if I did have it in me, or if that was just that is the time that I should have done. If I'd done Manchester, would I have done it? I mean, because then the other thing is you finish and you ran 27 miles, and you think, maybe if I'd have done Manchester, I might have done. I don't know.
Have you got any desire to try again?
No.
I'll scrap the next question.
Oh, sorry about the next question.
I mean, the other thing, which I think we're maybe going to come on to, but the other thing is I had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old when I trained for London. So it was the first marathon I'd done since having the kids. So in 5 years, it was the first marathon in 5 years. And I'd just started a new job, which was quite stressful. So to be honest, fitting in the training is just so difficult. It's an actual miracle that do you know what I mean? If I could just quit my job, and if someone wants to just look after my kids, then I think I could do sub 3. But we all, and I'm sure everyone listening to this can relate to this, we all actually have lives. So trying to just fit it all in and do it is just, it's just really tricky. But the pain at the end of London, I just don't. Never say never though. You'll get me back and they'll be like, you said you wouldn't. But it is now going to annoy me that it's 3:02 and not. I know, it's so close and yet so far. So just staying on the marathons a little bit, I think we know the answers here, but would you consider any of the majors? I wouldn't mind doing Tokyo. I think that sounds quite cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know about the other American ones. I'm not that fussed about them. No. Weirdly, I feel like New York kind of worked because my husband's brother was actually living in New York at the time, so it kind of just the stars aligned really for us to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know there's quite a lot of people in Chorlton Runners again who I'm in complete awe of. It's just who marathons is absolutely their thing. There's women in Chorlton Runners who are phenomenal at marathon running. but they'd never beat me on a 5k or a 10k, but they would absolutely have me on a, this is what I mean, I don't know, maybe as a runner, I don't know whether maybe you can, some people are maybe good at everything, but I certainly think some runners have their strengths and not, if you know what I mean. And I think it's just because I've got such a young family that it's a toll on them, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And you know, and I'm sure my husband would like a shout out on this podcast. He's like, you'd never have that time if it wasn't for me. You know, and you know, bless him. You know, him looking after the kids and you know, doing all that sort of stuff while I'm going off to run 20 miles on a Sunday. So I think I just need to wait for them to be a little bit older, but then I'll also be older, and I'm already old, so getting older still. So I don't know whether that time, I don't know whether it's doable or not, but you never say never. No.
So that brings us nicely onto this question. So being a parent, as well as having a full-time job as the North of England reporter for ITV News, and you're always super busy, but having 2 young children as well, and then Ros Webster, the woman who put you forward.
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
Said, how do you manage to remain motivated and focused when you have limited windows to train around shifts and parenting?
So yeah, it's a very good question, Ross. So thank you very much. I think I make every second count, running wise. I basically pay £4 3 days a week for my daughter to go to breakfast club in order to go running, which I'm sure the parents on listening, please don't judge me. But the thing is, normally my little boy goes to nursery anyway at 7:30, and the nature of my job, so I'm a journalist for ITV News and I cover the North of England, so I could be anywhere in the North of England. So that's why I didn't even know if I could get to this podcast tonight, because I could be in Newcastle or Huddersfield, or I just never know where I'm going to be. So normally I drop the kids off at 7:30 in my running gear. Sometimes I'll then have a message on my phone that says, you've got to go to Newcastle, or you've got to go to, do you know what I mean? And then it's straight back home in the shower and I'm off to whatever I'm doing. But sometimes I don't get that call, so that gives me like a 40-minute window to try and fit something in before work. So I do that before work. I still take my little boy Arthur out in the running pram. I don't know how many listeners will use the out and about nipper sport, but that is an absolute game changer for me as a mom. You know, and you see them at Parkrun, don't you? You see a lot of men getting very cross when they're overtaken by a woman pushing a pram, don't you? But yeah, so that was a massive game changer when it came to trying to come back, you know, after having the kids. And then and I do Parkrun on a Saturday, and I try and fit something long in on a Sunday, but it is really hard. Like, the thing that I find the most difficult is the nature of my job, and the kids and my husband's job means that I can't get to sort of the sort of club sessions anymore, or the rep sessions. Anyway, I get there now and again, like once in a blue moon, but the most difficult session to do on your own is the reps. And I do, every week I will do a rep session, but quite often that is by myself. So I've got like a few favourite roads near where I live. So like I've got one that's a go-to at the back of Fog Lane Park, and I'll just do 800 up and down there. Or sometimes I do a stretch along the river from Didsbury out to Stockport, which is quite a good stretch. It's a bit bumpy, but it's got a good stretch. So I could do like, I don't know, 3-4-5, 5-4-3 or something like that, and then like the minute off and do that. But I will always do that each week, but it is nowhere near as good on your own as, do you know what I mean? Because you need someone chasing you, don't you? Or you need to be chasing someone. And, you know, my best times have come when I've been able to put in a consistent block of doing those reps training, or getting down to Turn Moss, which is another place Chorlton Runners do some of their rep sessions in the summer, it's just a bit of consistency, I think, you know, that pays off really. So it is really hard, you know, it is really difficult, but I just try to fit it in where I can. And the great thing about running is you just need a pair of trainers, don't you? So I always have my trainers in the boot. So, you know, if I'm on a job or I'm somewhere, I'm anywhere, I'll always be able to go for a run. And I'll just try and fit it in wherever I can. Even if you've just got a half an hour window, that's enough to go and do 600-800. Or do you know what I mean? It's not huge, but it's better than nothing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Without a doubt. So when you've had to get your boots, when you've had to get your trainers out of your boot, has this led to any interesting like running related jobs with ITV News?
Well, not so much running related, but I have had a few. I was thinking about this morning, and I have done a few good interviews. So I remember being at a track session once, and just in passing conversations, some guy said to me that the Brownlee brothers were going into Oswald Road Primary School the next day, and I was like, what? The Brownlee brothers? So the next minute I'm on the phone to Oswald Road Primary School. I've just happened to have heard that the Brownlee brothers are coming into, so I got us in there. So yeah, interviewing the Brownlee brothers was good. I've interviewed Usain Bolt, he was good.
That's good.
So yeah, I mean, I seconded myself to the sports. I used to work at Granada Reports, and I seconded myself to the sports department for the summer of the Olympics. I don't think they even wanted me, but I was like, I'll just come and help with sport for a bit, but I can only do athletics, so that's the only thing that I can do. Excuse me. I was with Keely Hodgkinson's family when she was doing the 800 in Tokyo, because they couldn't go over because of COVID, so they were filming with it. So I was filming them, watching her win. Oh, actually, I don't know if she did win, but I was watching her compete in the 800 metres. So that was nice being with her family. Excuse me.
Get your cough out, don't hold it in.
Excuse me. So yeah, so I'll try if I can, to weave it into stuff, because I am a news reporter, so it is a lot of doom and gloom, unfortunately. So, but if I can get running into any of my jobs, then I'll try my best to do that.
Cool. That's all my questions, so I'll pass you on to Katie. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Welcome. Okay, so you've talked about having a young family. So did you train and race while you were pregnant at all?
So yeah, I did. I think I actually did a half marathon when I was pregnant with my first. And I definitely remember doing cross country. Definitely until I was thinking about 4 months with my second, with Arthur. So yeah, I did. I mean, I ran the whole way through my pregnancy actually with Felicity, thinking about it. I did Parkrun, I think, the day before.
Oh, really?
She arrived. Yes, I ran the whole way. But I don't want anyone listening to that to think, oh, that's the right thing or that's what you should do, because with Arthur I was completely different. So with him I had to stop running at about, I think, 4 or 5 months. And then I actually did a lot more swimming, and I'm terrible at swimming. I still am terrible at swimming, but I just couldn't run. I found it really uncomfortable, and I found it really, really difficult. Because you just don't know how your body's going to be,
Exactly,
So, and I know it sounds, I used to get fed up people saying this to me, but it's like, you do have to listen to your body.
Yeah.
I found the lack of advice so difficult, and I found so many people to be very judgmental about the fact that you're running while you've got this huge bump, especially if you're beating them. I mean, they don't like that, do they? Do you know what I mean?
I was going to say that. Do you think that there is a kind of a gap in terms of...
Yeah, there is, definitely is, and I know I've spoken to other mums about it, but I guess there's a gap because they probably can't test pregnant women, can they? Do you know what I mean? They don't want to... I mean, I think it's getting better than it was, but I mean, I remember reading something that said, like, you shouldn't get your heart rate above this. And I was thinking, that's me just walking around the block. Like, I can't, But then you are scared, aren't you, a little bit? The other thing I read was, don't do anything you didn't do before. So if you're used to running, if you're used to sort of doing it, then you're okay to sort of carry on. But then at the back of your mind, you're always thinking, but you don't want to do anything that's going to cause any harm.
Yeah.
But then equally, it's part of... for me, running is so crucial, and I think it helps my mental health, and it's what I do to sort of clear my mind and to sort of feel better. And if I didn't do it, I think I would struggle even more. But yeah, I do think there's a really big gap there, and I've had other mums come to me since asking advice and stuff, and it's and it is really 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 tricky.
Yeah. And you told us a little bit about Mummy Baby CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
So
tell
us a bit about that.
It's
then.
amazing.
What was
it's
that?
amazing. I hope she doesn't mind me bigging her up. But so it's at a gym in Sharston near the Skip called MWOD. And the thing is, after I'd had the kids, I found that there were a lot of exercise classes out there aimed at mums that are not really for mums that actually do exercise. I mean, I remember going to one class and it was literally like I'd paid £10 to breathe for an hour. And I was like, I don't need to breathe for an hour. Like, I just, this is not aimed at people that actually are fit and, do you know what I mean, and want to do exercise, if you know what I mean. And that's not a criticism of any of those classes, because, they're great and they fill a need, and, there's a lot to be said for, fresh air or whatever it is. But this particular MumWOD class was so good. It was run by a girl called Emma, who has done like loads of marathons, and Iron Women and, you know, all sorts of different things. Like, she is phenomenally fit herself. She's got kids. She completely gets it. And her classes were just brilliant. So you'd take the baby, basically, and sit them down or put them in the pram or whatever, and then you do your workout. So, but she would design the class in a way that you could, you know, of course the baby's going to cry, or you might need to change them or whatever, but, you know, it's everybody else is in the same boat, and you can stop and start, and it's a very sort of inclusive environment. And that class is what got me through the London Marathon that I've just done, because that is the only strength that I really did. And if I could still go to that class without my children, I would, because unfortunately I can't fit in or afford a private CrossFit membership. But her classes were so good. Honestly, I would do that workout without, forget the kids. Like, it wasn't like it was a workout aimed at, you know, that was like you know, easy, because it was aimed at new mums. Like, you could make it as easy or as hard as you wanted, and it was so good. And honestly, that is what stopped me getting injured through the marathon, and I've recommended it. I think I am solely responsible for her business now being booming, because I recommend it to, like, there used to be just a couple of us, and honestly she keeps posting, and it's like sold out every week at the moment. And I know lots of people that are probably listening to this have gone to that class, and it's absolutely brilliant. And there needs to be more stuff like that. And she's also super qualified. Like, she's a physio and she knows her stuff, and, you know, so the stuff that she's telling you to do, she completely adapts and, you know, makes it, tailors it to what your needs are. And again, the other thing I would say about it is, don't worry if you aren't a big fit person who's done loads of exercise before, because you don't have to pick up the 10 kilo kettlebell, you can pick up the 4 kilo one, or do you know what I mean? You can, she tailors it all to your needs, which I think is really great and is really inclusive.
Yeah, brilliant. That sounds good. Okay, so your PBs at all distances are very impressive, but we believe that you've got these PBs all after having children. So do you feel that you've got stronger, kind of running wise, since you've had children?
I don't really know why that is. The only thing I can think of is that I do make my running count more. Like, I make, because my time is so limited. Like, I definitely make my sessions count more.
So it's more quality.
Yeah,
running.
I think so. And other than that, I don't really have an explanation, to be honest. I think after you've given birth, you're just like,
you can do anything.
You can do anything, yeah. You know, so many people said to me before I had the kids, they're like, oh yeah, I remember going to like my NCT class and them being like, just think about giving birth as like, you know, like running a marathon. I was like, have you ever run a marathon? Like, and I remember saying I was like, because I would run 100 marathons rather than give birth again. So it's a walk in the park. So I don't know whether that's a bit of it. I am quite headstrong, but I've always been like, I am quite competitive, and I don't generally give up that easily, if you know what I mean. It's not so much that I'm competitive with myself, but I am very, like, especially at cross country, like, I know the girls who I should be near, do you know what I mean? And I just want to take them down. So, and I get a little bit frustrated now and again, and I think it's more of a woman thing than a man thing. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn saying that, but sometimes I think women are much quicker to be sort of, you know, don't worry, and it's just the taking part, and you know, I don't know whether that's a way of sort of making it easier, or I don't know whether it's a confidence thing, but I think sometimes we just need to be a bit more, we're bloody good and we can win this.
Yeah, it
do you know
just
what I mean?
taking part,
yeah,
is it?
you know, like, we are strong.
I've trained for this.
I think sometimes
I know what
women
you
maybe
mean.
just lack a bit of confidence with all that, if you know what I mean. Sometimes, you know,
try and play it down a little bit.
And I think
A number of times I've heard you say, Katie, imposter syndrome.
I do think that,
true,
and I think,
is,
I don't. It's not so much that I don't have imposter syndrome, because I do in lots of regards. But when I'm in a race, I want to beat that person, whoever's in front of me.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I remember one year doing cross country, and literally there was this girl in front of me, and she was wearing these tiny little hot pants. Not even hot pants; they were like knickers.
Yeah.
And she had like the best bum I've ever seen in my life, honestly. And I was like, I can't believe this girl is beating me wearing these pants. I can't believe that she's wearing these pants. I could never wear pants like that. And I was like, because she's annoying me so much. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, honestly, I was like, if I had a bum like that, I'd wear those pants. So,
which is not going to be.
And I went charging past her. So, but yeah, so it can be something as, you know, as little as that. But I think as women, we need to believe in ourselves a bit more.
Absolutely.
I think it's more the point that I'm trying to make.
And I think it's quite a common thing, isn't it, that people, once they've had children, they do improve the PBs, and they do seem to get better. Maybe it's something about that, your confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been running for a while now, so you must have some funny stories to tell, like the time when a pony escaped from a field mid-race. Tell us about
funny.
that.
I mean, that was years and years ago. I'm sure Dave, I don't know if Dave was in that race, but it was the Trafford 10K, and this pony escaped. You must remember it. I was in the Manchester Evening News. My pink shorts, my famous pink shorts were in the Manchester Evening News.
Oh, was that the photo that you shared?
Yeah, it was my bum, just in the Manchester Evening News. And it was this pony was just like running next to me in the Trafford 10K. It was hilarious. And I remember somebody shouting, I remember this marshal shouting to me, is that horse with you? And I was like,
yeah,
I've not just brought a horse along to pace me around the Trafford 10K. And then in the end it did bolt off and it did one, but it did give us a little bit of a fright for a while. Yes, that was a funny one. I don't know if it affected my time, but
I couldn't handle that. I'm
scared
petrified of horses.
They freak me out because they're just so unpredictable, aren't they? That would freak me out.
Was that a year that you organised it, Dave?
It was.
So why did the horse escape, Dave? What?
I think it was just able to escape from a farmer's field.
It's random, isn't it? Funny though. So when we spoke to you about coming on, we asked you kind of some of your favourite things around running. You mentioned Parkrun, Welsh Castles, cross country. So we've touched on Welsh Castles and cross country, but what about Parkrun? What is it that's so special about Parkrun?
Yeah, so my local Parkrun now is Fletcher Moss, which isn't the quickest course, but I think it's the prettiest course.
No, I haven't
it's
done
really
that.
pretty. It's a little bit hilly, so it's quite good for cross country training actually. So it's down by the river in Didsbury. I just think the whole concept of Parkrun is just amazing. You know, the fact that it's all volunteers, the number of people that it's got out the door, the number of people that are doing it, whether it's kids, whether it's older people, whether it's people that would never maybe have contemplated doing a run before. So I am there pretty much every week if I can be, and I also do love a little bit of Parkrun tourism. So if I am away somewhere, I'll always try and squeeze a little Parkrun in, but. Yeah, I'll always try and do it every Saturday if I can, and I just think it's absolutely brilliant. You know, the sort of people that give up their time to allow everybody to do it. We're just really lucky.
Yeah. Are you competitive at Parkrun?
Yeah, I really am.
Because it's not a race, is it?
Do you know what? I'm just not capable of I don't think I've ever done a race and not ran as hard as I can.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes I'll sometimes you're at a race and people will be like, oh, I'm not racing this. It's just a training run, or it's just which is completely fair enough, because often, lots of people, for example, might have done Wilmslow yesterday's training towards London, I know, for the marathon or Manchester Marathon. But I am just not wired to do that. I don't think I've ever done a run.
Yeah, you get on that start line and you're there to race.
Yeah. Ever. And I'm not saying that means it always goes particularly well. Yeah. Quite often it doesn't go very well.
Yeah, but you always give it your all.
But I always give it my all every single time. Although I know it's not a race.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And just going back to Ros again, she's asked a question. In terms of Welsh Castles, what's your favourite stage to run?
Well, I'm quite lucky that so far I've always ran on day one. So I don't know if we need to explain a bit about what Welsh Castles is for people that don't know what it is. So it's a relay that goes from Carnarvon Castle all the way down to Cardiff Castle. Yeah. And as a club, you run a bit each basically as a relay. So your stages are between sort of 8 and 13 miles each. And in Chorlton, we do it all on buses, and we've got to get different people to each different stage, and it's through the most beautiful countryside in Wales. And it's just, especially if you get the weather, although I have been on years when we haven't got the weather, it is the most beautiful race ever. It absolutely separates out, though, the city clubs from the hill running clubs, because every time, honestly, there's the clubs in Wales, they're miles ahead of me up the hills. Yeah. And because we don't have any hills in Manchester, do we? Where, it's all flat, and then as soon as it gets a bit straight, then I'm away. So I've done stage 10 twice, which is the last stage on day one, which has a horrendous uphill at the beginning. But that is probably my favourite stage, because it's kind of the glory stage, I suppose, because you're coming into the crowds at the end, at the end of the day. But the whole weekend is just absolutely brilliant. It's such a, and the other thing is that I like about it, and this is the reason I think I also like cross country, is that running is such a solitary activity. And I think for me now as well, I do most of my running on my own. Like I really do miss, like I don't get to club as much anymore because of the kids and stuff, and I don't get to training sessions, and so I just really like that it's a team.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That it's a team event, and cross country is a team event, and it does bring you all together. Absolutely. And everybody really is rallying for you, and you know, and really no one cares how well you do. Do you know what I mean? No one really cares whether you do a good time or not, to be honest. It's just the fact that you're there, and that that you're doing your best, and that everyone's having a good time.
The team events are good like that, aren't they?
Yeah, really good.
Okay, and we've got to talk about food because it's we're all foodies and we have to talk about diet. So, do you follow a strict diet, or do you have any particular kind of rituals with food before or after running, racing?
Yeah, no. Yeah, this is a really bad one. I really do need to work on this. So I always call myself what's known as a skinny fat person. So if you actually cut me open, I think my arteries would just be cheese and chocolate, maybe. I basically run in order to eat the amount of cheese. I had a cheese wedding cake. I just love cheese. I absolutely love cheese. So I eat so much cheese. Chocolate is not far behind. But my diet definitely needs to be improved. It's not. I eat fresh, healthy food. Yeah. But I definitely don't think I eat as nutritiously as I could. I mean, my race thing is just a bowl of porridge in the morning. That's what I have, and I'll have some pasta the night before. Maybe that's, Do
you crave anything when you finish a race?
No, not really. I just want to lie down.
Cheese.
Yeah, I just want to lie down. Really.
Lie down and eat cheese.
Yeah,
cheese is great.
I love cheese. Yeah.
It's not good, is it? I mean, has it got anything? Is there any good quality? I don't think
dairy. It's calcium in it, but
it's good for you at all.
No, probably not.
I have a Lucozade Sport before a race, and I have my bowl of porridge, and that's
sprinkled with cheese.
I've not tried that, but maybe I will.
What about supplements? You take any supplements?
Yeah, no, I don't either.
No.
I did take vitamin D for a while. I think that was to do with pregnancy, not to do with running. But yeah, I don't know whether I should or.
That's the thing again. It's the advice, isn't it? I think it's so conflicting and confusing. You just.
Yeah, my husband absolutely swears by Baroccas. Like he'll take one of them all the time. But I'm always one of those that I take a Barocca once I actually get ill, which is just too late, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I should have taken them. I should have been taking them for ages before, but.
So you're quite laid back then with
very laid back, too laid back. I'm really quite laid back about a lot of aspects of my running, even though I'm very competitive. So there's another girl in our club who I run with quite a bit, and she's phenomenal. She's an absolutely brilliant runner. But as an example, when we were the cross country championship, she'll be warming up while I'm in the shop. That's an example. I'll be browsing for new trainers while she's we need to warm up, and I'm I'm just gonna have another look.
Do some strides.
Yeah, whereas
socks.
So I am. So there are some aspects of my running that I probably should take more seriously. But
and just on that, and about looking at kit. So you always seem to be in pink.
I know.
So have you got a thing about pink?
No, I don't know how that started. I think I just got someone bought me some pink shorts, and then I was like,
was it the pink trainers?
Yeah, pink trainers, and then pink shorts, and I've got some bright orange ones as well that I might rock out. And I've just got a new pair of the Aftershocks, the running headphones, as an early 40th birthday present. I've got them in orange, bright orange.
So is it just bright?
Yeah, I think I just like to be fluorescent. Well, the thing is, it's easier to spot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if someone's, what I mean, if someone's cheering you on, you're easier to identify.
Yeah. Because you wear pink calf sleeves as well, don't you? Sometimes.
I don't wear calf sleeves, but I do
headband.
wear pink. I've got a headband.
It's a headband,
Pink socks, But then it just means you stand out, don't you? And if someone's cheering you on.
Yeah.
Then it means that they can spot you coming.
Yeah. And do you have any kind of particular kit that you prefer, or do you just
I wear Nike leggings.
Yeah.
And I just like them because they've got a pocket in the back that you can zip up.
Yeah. Practical.
Yeah, and then not particularly, to be honest. It's all about the trainers, isn't it? I mean, I train in Brooks, Ghost, and then I race in Vaporflies, which I think everybody does now, don't they? Do you know what I mean? But I've also got a new pair of them as an early birthday present. I've got a lot of early birthday presents that I've been I needed to have these because it's the Wilmslow Half or something. So I need to have them early. But they're all running related.
Oh, fab. And do you do any cross training or anything else to supplement your running? You mentioned earlier about yoga and
Yeah,
bits and
not
bobs,
enough, not enough. So until very recently, I used to go to this Mummy Baby CrossFit class,
Yeah.
but my little boy is now 2, so it was getting to the point where he was trying to pick up a kettlebell.
Yeah.
So like now, once he started walking, it was just like game over. He was gonna get taken out. Yeah. So unfortunately, I've had to sadly, I've had to sort of knock that on the head. So I swim once a week. I'm not that great at swimming, but I actually did have lessons for a little bit after Arthur was born. I just kind of wanted to get better at my front crawl, but it's still never going to be my thing. It's not, but I do find just one swim once a week just loosens you off and just kind of. I try to go to yoga once a week, which again I think really helps. And then the strength bit's trickier because I find that there's just not trying to find a class that works or that fits, and I find a lot of classes at the gym are quite like they're upper body heavy as opposed to being focused on what we really need as runners. Do you know what I mean, in terms of the lower body? So quite sometimes, in fact, I did it like last week. Like I have a Tuesday off work. Quite often I'll do a Joe Wicks in the kitchen while Arthur's having his nap. So, like, sometimes it's not, which isn't amazing. I know it could be better, but sometimes that's, do you know what I mean? Like a 20-minute or a half an hour, I've got my own kettlebells and my own dumbbell, and sometimes that's just the way that I'll fit it in. Do you know what I mean? Which is better than nothing. I certainly could do more. I think for the level I'm doing at the minute, that's probably all right because I'm only really running up to a half. Yeah. So I think it's when you're doing a marathon that you really have to be fit. I would have to fit in at least 1 or 2 strength sessions a week, but it's tricky, isn't it? And if you only got time to do one thing, I'd always want to run.
Exactly.
So, but if you don't do those other things, then I have been injury prone. I've always had niggles and stuff. So. Yeah.
And a question that's not on here, but what are your goals and aspirations kind of going forwards?
Well, I would like to go, I think I was trying to look at my times before. I think I'm 37.06 for 10k, so I'd like to get under 37. My half I've only gone under 124 once, which was actually at Four Villages half, which is my favourite half marathon. So Four Villages half is run by Helsby Running Club, which is where I grew up. So I think I've just got a bit of because it's my home, and like my mum and dad and the kids always come and cheer me on, and I get a free lunch afterwards at mum's, and I don't know. It's not. I don't know if it is a PB. Well, it's my PB, but it's not particularly. It's not flat. It's hilly. It's got big hills in it, but it's got a good downhill at the end. So that's where I got my sub 124. But every other half marathon I've done since, I've managed to not be well at. So if my kids can just not be snotty for a while, and then I can be fully well. And actually, if I could fit in a decent block of training, it would be nice to try and go under 124 again. But I mean, I'm not getting any younger, so I feel as though maybe I've peaked now and I'm just on the way down. And I'm just gonna slow down and just, if I could just hover around where I am. I know. So if I can just stay near where I am, then that'd be, stay in the team and stay. You can't last forever, can it?
No.
You can't keep always getting quicker, but we still keep trying.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all you can do.
You never know.
Okie doke, so we've got our quick fire questions. So, road or trail?
Trail.
Morning or evening workouts?
Morning.
Long intervals or tempo runs?
Intervals.
Hill sprints or flat sprints?
Flat sprints.
Recovery runs or rest days?
Recovery run.
Heart rate zone training or pace-based training?
Pace.
Cross training or focus solely on running?
Cross training.
Competitive mindset or fun and enjoyment?
Yeah, competitive.
Knew the answer to that one, didn't we? I think that was the fastest quick fire we've had for a while, isn't it?
Definitely.
Fab, well that's all our questions, so thank you for coming on. It was brilliant, and good luck with everything.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Amy.
That's it for this episode. And in our next episode will be our 100th episode, which is a special edition with a very special guest. So keep an eye on our socials to find out who this is. And remember, every journey begins with a single step, but the next step is the 100th for the Local Runners podcast.